and welcome to Clarity. Let's spend a couple of minutes talking about some of the challenges inherent in remote work. And when I say remote work, I just don't mean individuals working from home associated with IT, for example. I also mean the challenges associated with remote access to your OT in your industrial production side. Because the reality is, I think most organizations have been increasingly investing more and more in OT technology. And as they've done that, they have also built in an increased ability to remotely access that OT infrastructure. And so security of that OT infrastructure in a remote environment, I think, is an important component of any cybersecurity or cyber resilience strategy. Now, a lot of people argue, for example, well, the answer is, hey, look, we use a VPN structure that really mitigates the ability of anybody to tunnel. You know, we think that that's a good, sound approach to dealing with the challenges associated with securing remote access to OT systems. And I wouldn't disagree, but my only comment, and again, as an individual who both penetrated and defended networks for a living, on the defensive side, because in my previous life, I was part of teams that were responsible for defending the Department of Defense in the US, our defense networks. One of the things I always used to tell the team was be leery of single point strategies. Guys, we need to build redundancy and resiliency into our security strategy and into our resiliency strategy. I get really leery when I would hear the team talk about, well, sir, all we have to do is X, Y, or Z. You know, just one thing. And in my experience, boy, I wish life in the cybersecurity and the cyber resilience realms were that simple. But my experience has always led me to believe that that's not the way it works, that you really need to think about some measure of redundancy. And so I encourage every organization, whether your vision of remote access is an individual sitting in a laptop at home or somewhere outside the workspace, accessing data, accessing your networks, and or your view of remote is part of my workforce that is remotely accessing, remotely monitoring, remotely controlling, remotely executing, you know, operational activities associated with an OT network, if you will. You really need to think about both sides of that challenge. And they're not unrelated to each other, but the reality is, I think, we have seen what has happened with COVID, where we've been forced to pivot to an even greater emphasis on remote work. But the reality is COVID hasn't served to create that challenge. It has accelerated a model that was already there. If you just look at the last few years, remote access, whether it be OT or IT, has been increasingly a normal aspect of most network constructions. And that means COVID has just served to accelerate a trend that was already there. So I don't view this as, well, we're only going to have to worry about the remote problem while COVID is on. And once we get to a better place with the pandemic, well, we don't have to worry about this remote idea so much. And I don't think that's the reality. I think the reality is, as we come out of COVID, we'll enter something of a hybrid new normal. We won't all automatically go back to work, and we won't all automatically just say, I'm never going to work in an office again. Everything's going to be done remotely. And I'm only going to access, for example, my operating technology remotely. Now, I don't think that's going to be. I think the reality is we're going to go into a bit of a hybrid where network owners, whether that network be an OT construct or an IT construct, where network owners are going to have to realize I need to come up with a capability that enables me to access this network and execute its outcomes with a workforce that is in physical proximity. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge that for some parts of the week, day, or month, people are likely to be working remotely. And therefore, I got to create a structure that enables them to do that. And that also is going to be particularly true on the OT side. And so with that, I just wanted to say, look, I really think we need to think through from an OT perspective, what are the implications of remote work, remote access, and not view this as a temporary challenge that's only associated with COVID.